Hi, welcome to Dice Control Dojo. I'm Phil and I practice daily and share my tips so we can all get better at the casino. Today we're talking about dice action when one dice bounces higher or further than the other dice. As with our other two series, the what's in the air when one dice is higher than the other in the air or further than the other in the air, and also when they land, when one lands before the other, what that looks like. This one is what happens when one dice bounces higher or hits the back wall versus the other. And what does that look like? That was a horrible throw to be an example. But it's the same part of the other two. So if you're just wanting to know what happens with the dice action and you're paying attention to just how the dice react, this is the video for you. If you go back and look at when they land, when one lands better than the first before the other, that's going to be the same problems that you're having. So sorry for those that watch every day. If this is the same boring stuff, I hopefully give you a little bit more insight. But my goal is that if you're having a problem in dice action, or they're landing one before the other and bouncing higher or further than the other, I want to address that in this video. So what is causing that? What's causing the dice to bounce higher or hit the back wall first after it lands? Well, the problem is about pressure. And we get back to the one finger and your practice every day. If the one finger pressure, whether it's this one or this one, is off, then the one dice will go higher in the air. It'll hit first, and it'll hit the back wall first before the other will. So it's an easy fix. Your three-fingered grip, you got to just make sure that the pressure, two things didn't happen. One, did you release the finger by accident? I do that. Occasionally my finger goes off, and then that just sends the one higher than the other, and then it's going to react differently than the other. And our goal in life here is that once those dice land, they react the exact same way. And why do I want that? Because if they land the same way and they do the exact same thing, there's no way I can throw a 7. If they do the same thing, there's no way I can throw a 7. So if they both land the exact same way, and they bounce up and they come down and they sit, then there's no way, no matter what dice set you do, unless you're setting for the 7, that's going to happen. What usually happens is one will bounce further than the other, one will hit the back wall and do, so this whole reaction on the one side, or this whole reaction on the other side, is what usually double pitches you. So this is the double pitch fix when we're talking about dice action. If you're seeing those dice and one is coming out further or hitting the back wall first, then the dice are not going to do the same thing and you're in trouble. Then you're talking randomness. So what we want to do to fix that is we want to ensure when we're grabbing the dice and doing the turn, right, that we have even pressure on all sides. We're using centrifugal force to release. We're not using our fingers or our thumb to release. It's just centrifugal force, so they both land and do the same thing. Now I had some dice there that got in the way, so I'm sorry about that. Let me just move this so I look a little bit better on my throws when I'm talking. But what I'm trying to tell you is there's no way you can throw a 7 if they both land and do the same. Their reaction after the landing is the exact same. It's when they twist. That's why they put these columns up here, because they're hoping that those dice go up and one just turns to the left or turns to the right. One lands higher or lower. But if they land the same way, go up and come down, it's very hard to double pitch. It's that extra little spin that happens, and that's all on your ledge. So this is all about the ledge. That means you had uneven pressure, either more pressure on the left or the right. You flicked your finger, or you didn't even have to flick your finger. The pressure's just not right. So what do I do to fix that? When you're practicing the turn, I just put a little wiggle on there. If I'm doing some wacky stuff, I just put a little wiggle. My wiggle of my fingers kind of evens off that pressure. I can feel, you got to be able to do this. Just sit there for a while with your fingers. Get set where you want them. Wiggle it and feel the pressure on your one finger, your second finger, and your middle finger. Are they feeling the same? I can feel that I can distribute the weight on that wiggle just to make sure they're all landing together. The other thing, your thumb, if it's not centered and it's off one way or another, it could either separate them like this, but also too can cause a dice to go higher and lower. That was what our when they separate video talked about. But in this video, I just want to discuss the wiggle and the fact that these dice need to be even and the pressure needs to be there. And then, of course, my biggest problem is making sure that these dice are lined up straight across, not at an angle. It could be a millimeter of an angle. And if I'm setting up and those dice are off just a hair, just like that, right? Look, one goes higher than the other, and that's because the angle of my ledge was not correct. So we need to do 3 things in this video to not double pitch and get one higher than the other or one further than the other. And that's making sure that our ledge pressure is evenly distributed. So there it is, I feel it. If you're looking at it, making sure that you're straight across, that should be something. That's why I mark my fingers a lot, just to make sure I'm straight across. Because as I talked about before, I'm not straight picking these up like this each time. I'm using my outside fingers to keep it tight, and then I'm moving them in, and a lot of times I may not be aligned. But if I have the markings when I'm going to do my ledge turn, I am wiggling and I'm making sure that my markings are all aligned. So when I release, they're together. And they do the same thing. Do you see how they both off and done and sat? That's going to keep, if they're both doing the same thing, you're not going to double pitch. It's when one comes out just a little bit more or lands a little bit further, that's going to cause that double pitch every time. So to avoid the double pitch, those dice have to have the same reaction every time they leave your fingers, every time they bounce off that table. If they're doing the exact same thing each time, see, one was higher than the other. I had this finger pressure off, so one got up higher, and then they reacted differently. And that will always cause you to go more random than you want to be. But if those dice go off, they back wall, up, down, and sit together, no double pitch. So this is the one bounce higher or one bouncing further, that extra little turn that gets your dice, right? They bounce, they come up, they sit nice, but maybe one landed just a little bit before the other, and it just twisted, and there's your double pitch right there. Each and every time. I'm telling you, when they do, and they just react just a little extra, they do this. If they hit the back wall, and they go off to the side like that, and then they're off axis, that's one off axis, you're not going to get a 7, that's okay. But ideally, if you're in a a zone of trying to make sure you're throwing the hard ways each time, and you get a double pitch, you're going to get that 4-3 each time, or the 5-2. So you want to make sure that those dice are reacting at the end exactly how you want them to. And the way to do that is make sure your ledge is even, your pressure's right, and you're aligned. So those are things you can fix at home when you're at the table and you're seeing them do that. Don't overthink the fix. You just want to make sure you go back to basics, get there, get the ledge down, and get going. And hopefully it'll correct itself over your muscle memory and your mental memory. So all of those play a part in this. And I hope you understood how we fix the one bounce higher than the other. I would enjoy your feedback on that. If I missed something or something you want to discuss about any of these, please, put it in the comments, and in future videos I'll make my adjustments and discuss what that looks like. I hope to hear a lot from all of you after I've done all of these series. Join me tomorrow when we talk about the spin. What's causing one to spin too much, too little, and cause lots of chaos with the spin. So join me tomorrow on that spin. And as always, if you practice every day and get that perfect throw that it bounces up and down and sits together, you're going to throw for a long, long time.